It was supposed to be just another goodbye. Another quiet moment where two friends hugged, promised to stay in touch, and slowly drifted into separate lives. Instead, it became the moment that changed everything I thought I knew about love, friendship, and the people who silently carry our hearts without ever asking for anything in return. When I told my best friend I was moving away, she didn't cry. She didn't argue. She didn't even try to stop me. She simply walked toward me, looked into my eyes with tears she refused to let fall, and kissed me. In that single heartbeat, years of silence suddenly made perfect sense, and I realized the greatest love story of my life had been standing beside me all along while I was too blind to see it. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that love sometimes arrives when we least expect it, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that stay with you long after they end. Looking back now, I can still remember the first day I met Emily. We were both awkward teenagers trying to survive our first year of high school, carrying backpacks that seemed too heavy for our small shoulders and dreams that felt far too big for our little town. She sat beside me in biology class because every other seat had already been taken. I was nervous enough to forget my notebook, and without saying much she quietly slid hers across the desk so I could copy the notes. It wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't dramatic. It was simply kind. Somehow, that tiny moment became the beginning of a friendship that would define the next 12 years of my life. Our friendship grew the way the strongest relationships often do, not through spectacular adventures, but through ordinary days that slowly became unforgettable. We studied together before exams, celebrated birthdays with homemade cakes that looked terrible but tasted amazing, drove through empty roads late at night with music playing louder than our conversations, and spent countless evenings sitting on the hood of my old car, watching sunsets disappear behind the hills while talking about futures neither of us could imagine clearly. Everyone assumed we would eventually become a couple. Friends teased us constantly. Even strangers would smile knowingly whenever we walked into a restaurant together. We always laughed it off. Emily would roll her eyes, and I would joke that we knew each other too well to ever date. It seemed easier to believe that explanation than to question why she always remembered every important date in my life, why she noticed whenever I was pretending to be okay, or why she never let me face my worst days alone. Life, however, has a strange way of distracting people from what matters most. College came and went. Careers began. Relationships started and ended. I dated people who were exciting but temporary. Emily dated a few men who never seemed to appreciate the quiet strength she carried inside her. Whenever one of us experienced heartbreak, the other was always there with coffee, bad movies, and patient silence. We became each other's safest place without ever discussing what that truly meant. Then my father became sick. Everything changed almost overnight. Hospital visits replaced weekend trips. Medical bills piled up faster than I could pay them. My mother tried to stay strong, but I could see exhaustion written across her face every single day. I worked longer hours, slept less, and slowly lost the version of myself that used to laugh so easily. Emily never asked whether I needed help. She simply appeared. Sometimes she brought dinner because she knew I had forgotten to eat. Sometimes she drove my mother to appointments so I could stay at work. Other times she sat beside my father's hospital bed reading his favorite mystery novels aloud because she knew his eyesight was getting worse. She expected nothing in return. She never acted as though she was making a sacrifice. She simply loved the people I loved because they mattered to me. When my father passed away, the world became painfully quiet. People visited for a few days with flowers and sympathetic smiles before returning to their normal lives. Emily stayed. She helped organize paperwork I couldn't bear to look at. She answered phone calls when my voice refused to cooperate. She sat beside me during long evenings where neither of us spoke more than a handful of words. Somehow, her presence made grief feel just a little less unbearable. Months passed, but I remained stuck. I convinced myself I needed a fresh start. The memories in our hometown became too heavy to carry. Every street reminded me of my father. Every familiar place seemed to whisper about everything I had lost. So when a company offered me a position nearly 1,000 miles away, I accepted without hesitation. It felt like escape disguised as opportunity. The decision surprised everyone, but no one questioned it more than Emily. Still, she never tried to change my mind. She only smiled gently and asked when I would be leaving. The closer moving day came, the more unsettled I felt. Friends organized a farewell dinner filled with laughter that sounded forced. My mother hugged me tightly and told me she was proud even though I could hear sadness hiding beneath every word. The only conversation I truly dreaded was the one I needed to have with Emily. On my final evening before leaving, I asked her to meet me at the small lakeside park where we had spent countless summer nights watching reflections dance across the water. The air smelled like rain, and the sky glowed orange as the sun slowly disappeared behind distant trees. Everything looked exactly the same, yet I knew nothing would ever be the same again. We walked quietly along the shoreline. For several minutes neither of us spoke. Finally, I took a deep breath and told her that this was goodbye, that I would miss her more than words could ever explain, and that I hoped life would give us reasons to meet again someday. She didn't answer. She simply stopped walking. For one endless moment, the entire world seemed to hold its breath. Then she stepped closer. Her eyes searched mine with a mixture of fear, hope, heartbreak, and courage I had never seen before. Before I could ask what was wrong, she reached up with trembling hands, gently held my face, and kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't dramatic. It was heartbreak wrapped inside hope. The kind of kiss that carried years of unspoken feelings, countless missed opportunities, silent sacrifices, and love that had waited far longer than anyone should ever have to wait. When she finally stepped back, tears filled her eyes, though she still refused to let them fall. She looked at me as if she had finally laid down a burden she had carried for years. In that moment, memories began crashing into me one after another. Every time she had chosen my happiness over her own. Every late-night phone call she answered without complaint. Every birthday she made special. Every difficult season she helped me survive. Every quiet smile that lingered just a little longer than friendship could explain. The truth had always been there. I had simply never allowed myself to see it. I realized that while I had been searching for love in strangers, it had patiently been walking beside me every single day. I felt ashamed of how blind I had been. Yet more than anything, I felt terrified. Terrified that I had already made a decision that would take me away from the one person who had loved me through every broken chapter of my life. The moving truck was already packed. The apartment lease had been signed. My new job expected me in less than 48 hours. For the first time since accepting the offer, none of those things mattered. All I could think about was the woman standing in front of me, silently preparing herself to lose the person she had loved without ever asking to be loved back. If this story is touching your heart so far, please leave a comment with the words, "Love is worth the risk." We'd love to know you're watching, and your comment helps more people discover stories that remind us never to give up on the people who truly matter. That night, after I drove home, I barely slept. I walked through empty rooms surrounded by packed boxes, asking myself a question that should have been obvious years earlier. Was I running toward a better future, or away from the life I already had? As dawn broke through the windows, I finally understood something my father had tried to teach me before he died. Success means very little if you spend your life leaving behind the people who make success worth celebrating. I picked up my phone. My hands were shaking. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of starting over. I was afraid of losing the only person who had loved every version of me, the confident one, the broken one, the grieving one, and the hopeful one. Sometimes life doesn't give us perfect timing. Sometimes it gives us one final chance to choose what truly matters before the door closes forever. And this time, I wasn't going to let silence make the decision for me. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone you love, subscribe for more unforgettable stories, and leave a comment telling us about a person who changed your life simply by never giving up on you. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need hope today more than ever. As I turned my car away from the highway that morning and headed back toward the lake where everything had changed, I wasn't driving toward certainty. I was driving toward courage. And sometimes, courage is simply choosing the person who quietly chose you every single day, even when you never realized it. Because the greatest love stories are not always the loudest. Sometimes they are written in years of patience, silent kindness, unwavering loyalty, and one unforgettable kiss that finally gives two hearts permission to stop hiding.